last night's primary wins clearly illustrated. Republican Senate hopefuls in Blake Masters in Arizona and Eric Schmidt in Missouri, they won big in their respective primaries. We're pretty sure that's the Eric that Trump endorsed. The Republican primary for governor in Arizona has yet to be called, with Trump-backed Kari Lake holding a slight edge over Mike Pence-backed Karen Taylor Robson. Lake has already declared an early victory, and we are 97 days away from those midterm elections. Last night's primaries helped give us a clearer picture of what to expect in November. Here to weigh in is our panel, political analyst Mark Halperin and America First PACT founder and spokesperson Corey Gibson. Gentlemen, welcome to you both.
Hello. Good evening.
Corey, I'll start with you. I know that you lost your race yesterday, but you are a political newcomer up against some intense opposition during a time when the Democrats are spending a lot more time focusing on witch hunts on conservatives rather than actually fixing the many problems we currently have in our country under this administration. Talk to us about what you're going to do moving forward to continue your pledge to the America First agenda.
Thank you. Right now, I think it's the job of every single patriotic American to figure out what their role is going to be in fighting for this country. That's where we're at right now. The America First PAC was created to establish and build the anti-squad, to create a group of fighters that were finally going to go into Congress and enact America First policies. And I'm super excited and happy to say that we had huge wins last night. Even though I wasn't one of them, it's going to free me up to step into making this a success. Blake Masters being one of our huge wins. So what I'm going to do is we've already set up a super PAC. AmericaFirstP.com is where you can see our current members. And we are going to do everything that we can to do something different. We're going to build the anti-squad. We're going to get in there and we're going to start putting up the fight that's needed to get us back on track. We're so derailed as a nation right now. We need fighters.
Yeah, we certainly do. And Mark, I'm curious to get your take on the implications of last night's primaries. What does it say to you about the future of the GOP and where we're headed?
I think President Trump's endorsed candidates did very well. I'm a little bit different than some analysts in looking at the governor's race result. I think that it's one of the few primaries where even though his candidate looks like she's going to win, I think it shows a little bit of a diminution of his power. But for the most part, you saw a bunch of Trump-endorsed candidates, Trump-allied candidates winning. And that's going to be the roll of the dice for the fall. Is that kind of candidate able to win in general elections? They should have the wind at their back. And that gives President Trump, I think, some confidence that he can go out of the midterms and into what I believe will be a presidential campaign as the ruler of the party.
What about, let me just piggyback on that and ask you, obviously Democrats are spending a lot more money. They have a financial advantage. Senator Santorum was on Wake Up America this morning, and he said the financial advantage is so decisive for the Democrats it's going to be a much closer fall election than anticipated. Do you agree with that?
I think right now there are two things that I would cite that would make this closer than history and the inflation rate would suggest it should be. One is the money, as Senator Santorum pointed out. The other is candidate quality. There are a number of Republicans who are first-time candidates. Democrats are masters of the dark art of opposition research. They obviously are going to have the advantage with the media, particularly on an issue like abortion, where the press is overwhelmingly sympathetic to the Democratic point of view. So you're going to see in debates and advertising and opposition research generating news stories, you're going to see a lot of these first-time candidates on the Republican side heavily targeted. And history suggests that even in a wave year, if you can knock out your opponent with some tough opposition research, you can keep the seat or win the seat.
And Corey, I know that you said you believe the new Republican Party has become more accepting as it really works to unite Americans on policy issues. Can you explain what you meant?
Oh, absolutely. Look, I ran as an America First constitutionalist who happens to be gay. And that's not the reason I lost. The reason I lost is because we were new at this, just as, as the other panelists was stating, we were new at this, and we weren't really armed to come into it in the way that we needed to actually win. But if you look at the people that are running, if you look at the people that are even in our America First PAC, it's an incredibly diverse group of people. President Trump opened the door for us as a nation to feel like wanting to fight for our country is enough. And we're tearing down those sort of narrative-based ideas that the Democratic Party has been working on for so long, to keep us divided. And so what we have the potential of doing right now is becoming a very united party with fighters, not politicians, fighters, people that are going to go in there and that are going to try and finish the work that Donald Trump started. And like I tell you, even if we don't all get elected, there's a whole army, there's a whole new group of inspired people in this nation that are paying attention like never before. And we're going to do our part to support those candidates and then support Trump if he chooses to run.
Well, it's great to see that unity within the party right now. And, you know, we got another really big primary coming up. Liz Cheney, Wyoming, in just a couple of weeks, August 16th. Now, her potential loss in that primary would leave just 3 impeachment Republicans in the House. Mark, how do you anticipate this is going to play out? I mean, you've got Harriet Hageman. She's up 22 points in a Casper Star Tribune poll out in July. But, of course, Democrats in Wyoming, Cheney has been going after them saying, I need your support. They're allowed to change their voter registration and participate in that primary. Could that be enough to save her, or do you think she's going to be leaving Washington?
Well, she may stay in Washington, but I don't think it'll be as a member of Congress. There's statistically very difficult to get enough Democrats to switch and to vote for her because, as you know, it's overwhelmingly Republican state. It was the best state for President Trump in the last election. So I'll be curious to see how she handles these last few days before, whether she tries something new, because the path she's on, I don't think is going to lead to re-election. And if she does lose, it'll be fascinating to see how she frames her loss and what she does next. She's a pretty potent force for some parts of the Republican Party, and as you know, Jen, for a lot of Democrats in Washington as well.
Indeed. And I want to get your take on this, Mark. Just talking about the other side, you've got squad member Cori Bush. She cruised to victory in Missouri's 1st Congressional District Democratic Party, as did the other member of the squad, Michigan Democratic Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. With all of the woke policies that are being rejected at the executive level, you look at Biden's approval rating right now. How do you explain these wins? It seems like a lot of Democrats are saying, we don't want these far left policies. We're kind of getting towards the middle. What's your take on that?
There are some Democrats who said that, and they looked at those races to see if they could find more moderate Democrats to get them one-on-one to run against them. Didn't work. And it's the mirror image of what you see some view as a pretty serious problem for the Republican Party. If you're going to keep nominating folks who can't win general elections, they're both going to get reelected to their seats. But there are certainly, as you suggested, Democrats who would like to take them out in a primary, give the seat to another Democrat. Not going to happen this year. And the longer they're in Washington, like most incumbents, even though they're the unusual incumbents, the more entrenched they get, the harder they are to beat.
Cori, as we watch these primaries play out, any advice for other candidates that are awaiting those primaries?
Oh my gosh. Relax. I think that the advice that I would give to anybody is this, I live in one of the most conservative districts in the nation, which is surprising. It's right in the middle of Washington state. We had a 17% turnout. So what we have to do more than anything is we have to get out there and we just have got to encourage people to vote. I think that as a candidate, we need to be engaged with the public in every possible way, knock on doors, go visit people, talk to them in restaurants. What we need in this country right now is a movement. We need something that is going to be able to propel this country to get back on track, because we've been hijacked from the liberal left. Even the Democrats have been hijacked. A weak Republican is more dangerous than a Democrat at this point. What we've got to do is we've got to fight to get strong Republicans that are going to push America First policy into place into our country so that we can so that we can get our country back on track. And so as the other candidates are working hard to get their races going, I say, we're here, we're trying to support those candidates. We want to get them through as best we can and just work as hard as you can. But I got to tell you, even if you lose, your job's not done. We've got to fight for this country right now, every single one of us.
It's a great point. You can't rest on the fact that Biden's destroying the country. Still a lot of work to be done. You got to roll up your sleeves, because the Democrats certainly don't want to see Republicans taking control. Panel, got to leave it there. But thank you both so much, Mark Halperin and Cori Gibson. Great to have you with us tonight.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
You too.